Hi guys, welcome back, or welcome. Um, so my name is Lobo. Uh, as you are fully aware, it's Lobo Deep Dive, and I like to deep dive into different things. And you've probably seen my alphabet uh, videos, or you stumbled upon my current events. One of the two, who knows? And I figured I cover a new topic today. This is something that this is what I do for a living. I'm technically a truck driver. I do videos on this channel as a side thing. I do it this is just basically for fun for me. Fun and kind of just, you know, I guess informative, I guess would be the best way to put it. So I mentioned I wanted to do deep diving into like truckers' lives and everything like that, because I am a truck driver. And I figured, why not start with the basics of basics? Okay. So how do you become a truck driver? Well, there's a couple things you need to do. You need to, let's just pull it up. How do you become a truck driver? Just so that way I can explain it as, you know, it comes up. So meet basic requirements. Okay, so yeah, you need a high school diploma at least. You need to pass the, you know, the basics of basics. A clean driving record. So when they say clean, that really depends on, I guess it would really depend on the company, but for the most part, you want to stay mostly clean. When I became a truck driver, I didn't have any speeding tickets on my record. I did have a couple accidents, but they overlooked it because I stayed clean for like 2 years since my last accident. So, you know, they check your driving records for about 10 years back, give or take. And some companies will be like, yeah, we'll give you a chance. Others will be like, talk to us again in like 5-6 months or something like that. It really depends. It really depends. Obtain a commercial driver's license. So yeah, you have to enroll a trucking school or a training program to get your CDL, and then yeah, you have to train anywhere from 4 weeks to a year. It really depends on the trucking company. I went to a trucking company, or not. I didn't go to a trucking company. Didn't even go to a trucking school. I went to a college, and they had a program for getting your CDL that took me about 3 months to complete the entire course. Granted, I was doing it during night shifts, and I was only doing it like 4 to 5 hours for the class. We would do an hour inside the classroom discussing the different rules and the different, like, some of the laws or some of the pre-trip inspections, because we have to inspect our vehicles to make sure they're safe to be on the roads. And then we go out driving. Not that hard. There is a specific amount of driving time. I can't remember. I think it was like 100 hours of training that you needed. Let me double check that. How many hours of driving to get a CDL? I'm pretty sure it's like 100. One program takes 192 hours of training, consisting of 60 hours in the classroom, 18 in parked vehicles, 29. Another program, 160 hours of instruction. So, yeah, it was like 80 hours or 100 hours of active driving, actual driving, which is why it took, 3 months for me to do it. And that's with you actively being behind the wheel, whether you're practicing your parking or you're practicing driving the vehicle on straightaways or taking turns left or right. And it's pretty, not complicated, but it's a little more. You need to be more aware of your surroundings. And then you gain experience. Yes, many employers prefer drivers with some experience, so consider starting with a company that offers training programs. And this is true. There's been many companies I've come across where they need you to have at least 1, maybe 2 years of driving experience before they even consider hiring you on. And that's just because a lot of like the rookies and everything, you're gonna make a mistake. You're gonna have an accident. So it's usually like the big companies like Night Transportation or Swift that will take on the rookies, because I'm sure you've seen the videos online where a Swift makes an accident, gets in an accident. Oh my gosh. There's an acronym for Swift. I can't remember off the top of my head, but is there an acronym for... Oh, no, I remember now. Seriously wish I finished training. That's a joke amongst most truckers. If you ask them for the acronym, more often than not, they'll say, seriously wish I finished training. Because Swift is notorious amongst the trucking community to have the worst accidents, the worst mistakes possible. It's not even close. But beyond that, yeah, Swift and Night Transportation are usually the rookies, is where the majority of the rookies go. There are some, in rare experiences, that you'll see that that they're good drivers, but it's fairly rare with the turnover rate they have there. So beyond that, so yeah, consider specialization. So yeah, that's right, specialization. So this is pointing out you may want to pursue additional certifications for specializing driving, such as hazardous materials or long haul trucking. Now, when they mention hazardous materials, there's also a couple other subcategories you can get into. You can get your you can get triples and doubles, where you haul multiple trailers, and then you can also get your tankers. So that one's usually is with diesel, with milk, water, anything can be hauled in those tankers. Triples and doubles, tankers, hazmat. Those are the 3 endorsements that if you have those on your CDL, you become desirable. Most trucking companies, they'll be willing to work with you depending on your record if you have those 3 endorsements, because you are desirable as a driver to the different trucking companies. So as far as a pre-trip, you have to look at everything. You can't have anything wrong with your truck, like, period. Let me pull up a pre-trip list. Let's see here. Come on. Oh, jeez. This might be a pretty good one. Hopefully my internet or data switches up. But yeah, these are some of the things that you would learn in a trucking school, is to learn how to do a proper pre-trip. And this is something I wish cars would do on the road, because some of you all desperately need to learn how to check your vehicles. Like, seriously. Of course, no, you're not gonna let up pretty, are you? Oh, Jesus. No, not that one. Let's try this one. All right. So, yeah, you usually fill this part out and then check your windscreen for damage. So, like, this is often referring to your windshield. You have to make sure there's no cracks, there are no chips, you have nothing wrong with your windshield, because you need 100% visibility. on your windshield. This probably will also include your windows, your door windows, because as you know, driving a big truck, and most of the trucks that are on the road, they're about 60 plus feet long. The trailer itself is just 53 feet, and then the truck adds an additional 10 to 12 feet, depending on the truck. Check under the vehicle for oil, water, fuel, or fluid leaks. So whenever you're approaching a truck to do a pre-trip, usually you want to look for leans, leaks, and lights. Yeah, leans, leaks, and lights. That's usually the first thing you do. Like whenever you're approaching a vehicle, this is how they would taught us. They taught us to walk straight towards it to where you're approaching the nose of the vehicle, and you look underneath to see if there's any fresh water spots underneath. And if there's not, you're doing great. And the leans is to see if like the axles are tilted or there's something wrong with the tires, or it's just to see if there's any irregularities with your vehicle. If there is a lean, if your truck is like, hugging the ground, like, ugh, I'm so tired, then it's a big red flag. And then for your lights, you're looking for any light damage or anything like that. Make sure they're all the right color. They need to be like the lights on the top need to be amber, and then your headlights need to look like they're not damaged or anything. Usually you would turn on your truck, at least to power it on, and then turn on the lights to make sure that they're working. Coolant level, that's pretty self-explanatory, as well as engine oil level, clutch fluid, brake fluid. Most trucks actually don't have brake fluid. We run on air brakes, where a lot of it involves air pressure. We have like an air gauge in our trucks that lets us know like how much air pressure is being built up. We have air compressors in most of the trucks, so that because air braking reacts faster than fluid and don't freeze up as often. I think that's how it is. Then again, if you don't release your brakes at night, in the middle of winter, your brakes could freeze over if there's water on them. No, actually, yeah. So yeah, brake fluid can freeze in the certain areas that we go to. Check caps and dipsticks are fitted correctly. Yeah, you just got to make sure you put everything back on correctly, or else you do have those oil spills underneath. Drain the air tanks. So the air tanks are part of the air compressor that I mentioned before. That's where they store all the air. And our air tanks, after like with how often we drive and everything and where we're exposed to, moisture can be built up in there, and so it's a good idea. We have little wires that you can pull at the bottom of the air tanks that spills out the extra moisture inside, because you don't want to have any moisture inside your air tanks, or else it's going to mess up all your air lines and freeze them over, and it just breaks everything, and you're shut down in the middle of water. You're dead in the water essentially. Yeah, you gotta check your warning lights. Okay, so this isn't just to make sure you don't have them, make sure they turn on in the first place, and that they will alert you accordingly if anything is wrong with your truck. Because if you don't make sure those are happening, you're driving down the interstate, you don't know if there's anything wrong with your truck. If you did your pre-trip right, and let's say one specific like you see debris in the road, like a tire, people lost, I don't know, furniture or something like that. You run it over, and you think you cleared it. Next thing you know, you're missing half a tank of freaking coolant or something like that, and you don't know it until all your lights start alerting you. If you keep running on your truck, same thing will happen with a truck or with a car. Bad things happen. And yeah, check oil pressure. You got to check all your gauges and make sure everything is good. Check your steering operation. That's one of the big ones, along with I guess you could say wiper blade operation. It's a 50-50 thing, but yeah, you got to check your steering. You shouldn't have more than like a few inches of play in your steering wheel. If you got more than that, you have a serious steering problem issue, and you need to get that fixed like ASAP. I know in some people's cars you have a lot of play, and it's very slow to react, and that's fine in four-wheelers. But we're hauling most trucks that are like dry van or reefer or something like that. We're at max like 80,000 pounds. That's 80,000 pounds of weight traveling at 60 plus miles per hour on the interstates. If you don't have control of your vehicle because of that, because you don't take care of your steering wheel, that is a massive issue. Yeah, you got to make sure your lights are check your rear view mirror. Okay, this has to be an inspection for a car. For trucks, there's no way this is for a CDL if you have a rear view mirror. We don't have any rear view mirrors. We have oh my gosh, you got your side mirrors, but that's it. Whatever. You do got to check your lights. Even with all the lights that we have on our trucks, some of you people don't even notice the giant 53-foot trailer. I've had so many close calls on the road, in California specifically, where you guys almost ram your cars into the side of me because you don't see the giant truck. We're 13 feet tall and 53 feet long. How do you not see us? Whatever. That's another thing. That's a story for another time. But yeah, you gotta make sure all your lights are on, because even one light can get a trucker a ticket. I bet you didn't know that. Hold on. DOT ticket, or tickets for lights. Let's see here. How much is a ticket for missing lights on a semi-truck? Semi-truck specifically. Oh my gosh. I haven't ever gotten a ticket for a light or for missing lights. Thank heavens, because I made sure all my lights work. But a fix-it ticket usually can cost you up to like $200 or something like that if you're running with any damage on your truck, whether it be like, a flat tire, or you're missing lights, or something's leaking. Something you can get points on your CDL. You can possibly pay a financial fee, and your company gets points as well, which is not a good thing. Check if side window winders are operational. Okay. Yeah, you got to make sure your windows can open and close. Yeah, you got to make sure your doors can close properly, because it wouldn't be a good thing if you close your door. And my truck specifically has a weird little feature. If you don't close your door properly while you're driving, or if you don't park your brakes or anything and you open the door, which I've seen many truckers do, and that's not a good thing. But my truck will sound the alarm, like it will hard brake the truck and then just start blaring off the horn left and right because I didn't activate the brakes. Fortunately, I've only had that happen to me once, and it wasn't because my brakes weren't activated. I just opened the door too soon after activating my brakes. It's absolutely obnoxious. No loose objects in the cab. That's kind of hard to not do in a semi truck, especially one that you live in. But the main reason is not to have a bunch of loose objects, is they don't want anything rolling up into where your feet are, because then it can stop you from braking, can stop you from pressing on the gas pedal, and it's a form of a distraction, and those are big no-nos in the semi-truck industry. Reflectors. Yes, we have to have so much of the truck covered in reflectors, because apparently we are nearly invisible to all cars for whatever reason. Even if we have brake lights on, even if like an entire truck is lit up, I've seen cars crash into those trucks that are lit up like that, and it's not pretty. Makes you question it. We are required to have emergency triangles and a fire extinguisher. I think it's like a class B, I believe. I could be wrong. But it's in case, like, you know, trucks, things happen. You blow a tire, something happens with on your hood that you didn't account for when you did your pre-trip or anything like that. So you got to be able to protect yourself if you break down in the middle of the interstate. And we have to have triangles that you have to place them in different spots, depending on where you are. We should probably do reflective triangles. Excuse me. Yeah. No, for trucks, for semi trucks, you need to have it like, it goes like 20 feet, 50 feet, and 100 feet or something like that. Not 10 feet. At least 10 feet. And where? Yeah. There we go. Like, so, there's sometimes pictures. It's different rules for location. For a straightaway, it's like 20, 50, 100. For a curve, yeah, like right here. Perfect example. A curve, you need to have 2 behind you and at least 1 in front of you, especially if it's like a shared highway. If you're around a bend or something like that. Oh. Yeah, see. You need to give them plenty of time in front of you and behind you. So that way they're not coming up and they're like, oh no! Crash. It's also the same with hills. You got to place them even further. If you're like right here at the crest of the hill, you need to place them even further than that. Same thing with round corners. Straightaways, it shouldn't be too hard. You should be able to see a truck on the right. But like I said, some of you four-wheelers, you don't see nothing. Alright, see here. Yeah, you gotta make sure your fire extinguisher is up to date. Jack and tools, that's not necessary. First aid, you can have a first aid kit, but that's not necessary. Internal heater, air conditioning, fans, and defroster. You got to make sure all this works, because one foggy window and one blind day, it's the end of somebody else's day. You got to make sure everything works so you can see clearly, because oh my gosh, let's see here. Rainy windows, semi truck, car. I don't know if you guys seen like the videos on YouTube or anything like that, but there are plenty of semi truck drivers, or sometimes just normal drivers that will share videos or pictures of what it looks like in our windows or our mirrors. We can't, yes, we can't see you without your headlights on. So adding steam to it, that's not helping. Semi truck, mirror, view, rainy day. I think that's probably like pretty close. That's kind of close, but like imagine like all this area covered up with rain splatters and everything, and then you add fog or steam on the inside of your truck. You can't see this guy. Like with his headlights, it helps, but you can't see this guy. Imagine just having all the rain on your mirror, having steam and your splashback of water, and then some idiot car comes up behind you or beside you, and they don't have their headlights on. You can't see those people at all. It's so dangerous. This is probably even closer to like what it looks like. Like it's all foggy and musty. You can barely see that guy. Imagine if there's like a car right here, didn't have their headlights on, they're gray, this truck can't see them. So it's a good idea to make sure that your defroster does work, so that way you have 100% of your vision all the time. So that way, even if you can't see people clearly, you can still kind of see them. License plate, you got to make sure you have all your documents. Each company has different documents that you need to bring with you, but for the most part, it's just to make sure you're allowed to drive in that state and everything. You have like, I have like a book with just the documents to drive in 11 states, and it's like 20-50 pages of different like certificates that says I'm allowed to drive in that state and haul specific items. Check your tire. Check your tires. You gotta check all your tires. You gotta make sure your tire pressure is good. You gotta make sure there's no lumps. There's no signs of distress. And if there's like a tire recap, I didn't know. I don't know if you guys know this. Tire recap. So when they recap tires, they take like really old tires and they put new treading on it. And that's a normal thing that's in the trucking company, is to save as much rubber as possible. But it is prone to failure. And I don't know why we continue to do it. Let's look at recapping tires specifically. Let's see if it shows some of it. Yeah, like this right here. See, like you have worn out tire. Come on. Cannot wait to have better internet access. Any day now. But yeah, retreading tires, it's cost efficient, yeah. But like I said, they're prone to fall apart. So you're not allowed to have retreaded tires on steer tires. Those need to be brand new every single time. You can put them on your drives and you can put them on your trailers, but you're not allowed to put it on your steers, because you blow out a steer. There are videos of drivers losing control entirely. You can see it just fine here, where it's semi-smooth and everything like that, and they just put fresh tire tread on it. with like a special glue. Yeah. It looks cool, but at the same time, it's not always good. And then most tires, they have to be inflated to up to 110 psi, give or take. You got to make sure you read, like if you're going to be an owner op, it could be different for the tires you buy. But for most trucking companies, they buy tires and it has to be 110 psi in order to have like not only a smooth ride for the driver, but just for good care of the trucks. Cars, it's definitely different. You have to make sure you read your instructions, which, yeah, you should be able to see like on the along the side right here. It'll say like PSI or something like that of how much you're supposed to fill it up. But if you're driving a car, I would hope you know how to do this. If you don't know, you didn't have a good dad. Oh, that's right. Let's continue on the idea of tires. Steer tires need to have at least 3/4 of an inch of depth of tread before they need to be replaced. Or no, that like brand new, they have 3/4 of an inch. If it's less than that, they need to be swapped out. And then for trailer and drive tires, it needs to be at least 1/4 inch. I believe that's what it is. I just measure it by my, I have a trick to do it. And so I don't remember the exact measurements. I just know roughly when I need to get my tires replaced. Tow hitch, yeah, this is for like a little car. Instead of a tow hitch, we have what we call the fifth wheel, is what we call it. It's a big black plate. Let me see if I can pull it up. Hopefully it will not give me issues. Fifth wheel. I love how like when I bring up fifth wheel, it gives me RVs. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for fifth wheel, semi-truck fifth wheel. I might as well just get a little more specific with that because this is going to pull up a bunch of RVs. But it's like in the shape of like a U. This is probably... Let's do this one. Come on. Come on, Google, you can do it. I believe in you. All right, there it is. Okay, here we go. Fifth wheel. This is the fifth wheel plate. They're generally this shape for the most part. And there's like a little locking mechanism that is triggered when you put the kingpin, which is a little nub at the bottom of a trailer that we have to back into and latch it into this hole. And a little lock comes into place and locks into the place. But every time you see a fifth wheel, you probably will see it's all black and greasy looking. It needs to be, so that way it's metal. It's because this is metal, the trailer's metal. It's to prevent any unnecessary friction and rubbing that damages the truck. So you have to have extra grease on here just to make sure nothing gets damaged. So even though this is nice and pretty and all red, this is going to be black in like 24 hours, if that. I don't understand why they would have this red thing if they're just maybe for show, but this is going to be all black by the end, like by the first trailer, guaranteed. Let's see here. Yeah, you got to make sure that's all working. You got to make sure whenever you pull the latch to unlock it, it pulls properly, and you don't have to get that replaced. Um, and the trailer's a different set of looking at it, see what needs to be fixed or what needs to be broken. But we'll probably cover that next time. Yeah, you got to check for to see if there's any air leaks. You got to make sure when you get a chance to hop out of your truck, even though if all the alarms go off, you got to release your brakes and you got to walk around your truck to make sure you don't hear any active air leaking. It happens more often than not on trailers, not very often on the truck itself, but the air leaks are really important because if you lose too much air, then your brakes will automatically engage while you're driving, and if it does that, then you have blown tires and brakes and a massive accident happen to you right off the gate. Foot brake. There's not very many handbrakes in most trucks. My truck does have a handbrake, but only affects the trailer brakes. It makes so that way I can, if I pull that, more often than not, if I have to ever pull that, it's because I'm in a situation where my trailer is sliding out of control and I'm trying to regain control by pressing on the gas and flooring it essentially, and I'm pulling my brake and it kind of forces it to straighten out. I haven't been in those situations very often. There have been situations I know personally happened to where the trailer lost even more control, and that's because of a brake failure on that trailer, but I'm not going to get into that. It's not my story to tell. But it can fix it more often than not as long as the trailer is up to code and up to properly ready for service, which hopefully you keep an eye on that. Check exhaust brake operation. I don't have I don't have exhaust brake. Don't have that. Yeah, you gotta make sure your seatbelts work. Bunks secure properly. I don't know many people that have their bunks raised up and locked into place and secured properly, but I can see why that would be an option, but it's not the case for many people. They usually either have one bed down or they have both beds down and they just leave it as it is. You just got to make sure everything is not going to fly around and hit you in the head, because all it takes is you to get knocked out and you're a driving bulldozer of 80,000 pounds with 65 miles per hour. But yeah, you got to do your pre-check every time, and it's not just you're doing your pre-check once, you only do it once and you're good for a month or anything. No, you have to do your pre-check every single day and every single time you stop. You even do a post-trip before you go to bed at night to make sure that your truck is in good condition in case something happens in the middle of the night. You gotta check everything. And most pre-trips and post-trips, they only take about 15 minutes. And the pre-trip in the middle of the day, they recommend that you do a pre-trip every 250 miles or every 4 to 5 hours, give or take. Some company policies say 3 hours, some company policies say 150 miles, which roughly translates to 3 hours, give or take, depending if your company has your truck governed. But yeah, that's generally how you become a truck driver. But this is also something that is known when you actually apply. You must be able to understand and speak English clearly. I know that I don't sound like I can speak English very clearly. I stutter a lot and everything like that, but that's because I'm not talking to another person. Well, technically I'm talking to you guys and Peen, but you have to be able to read, write, and speak English clearly, because communication is a key point in the trucking world. It's not very often that they're being used anymore, but truck drivers used to have I'm looking at it and I forgot what it's called. CB radios. That's what it is. I have one in my truck, and I'm like looking at it as I'm talking about it, and I completely forgot it was called for a second. But yeah, we have CB radios, and a lot of truckers used to, and sometimes they still do. It's not very often anymore because everyone's on their phones, having friends. But you used to be able to talk to another driver and be like, "Hey, just so you know, there's an accident up ahead. Be ready to slow down." And that gives trucks plenty of time to start slowing down. That's right, slowing down. Trucks, they don't slow down quickly. We may have 18 tires. There are 18 tires on a truck and trailer. And logically, you would think more tires, more friction. Well, you gotta take in the the inertia or velocity or I forgot what the word is. It's where an item is in motion, it will stay in motion for the most part. That you take that into account. And at 80,000 pounds, going 65 miles per hour, it takes a little over a football field for a truck to stop safely. Now, when I say stop safely, I don't mean slam on your brakes as hard as you can. Tires are burning, brakes are burning. No, that's not safe. What I mean is what they would teach you at school, where you're not slamming on your brakes, but you're pressing hard enough to stop your vehicle safely without throwing everybody forward. It takes about a full football field, which is a little over 110 yards, give or take, which is why we have the space in front of us. They call that following distance. Because trucks, we have a lot of blind spots. And it's not easy to be able to see all those blind spots. Especially if you're like a new driver and you're not used to being in a truck like that. A lot of the blind spots involve immediately in front of the hood and immediately behind the truck. And there are some trucks that make up for the like what you can see on your sides by having 3 mirrors, like 2 on the front, and then your side window mirrors, and they have 2 sets where they have the fisheye look, and the one on the hood is fisheye, and then you have your flat ones. Usually that covers all of them, but it doesn't guarantee that we can see you 100% of the time. There's a ton of blind spots on the truck, which is why we are in charge of trying to make sure we have our own personal bubble. And the one that we can control the most is the space right in front of us. So if you see a truck driver and he's maintaining a space and he's got like 2 or 3 car lengths in the middle of traffic, and you guys are going like 30, and you decide to cut him off, and suddenly there's a sudden break, there's a chance he might crush you if he can't control his truck fast enough. I see there's plenty of news coverings of trucks pretty much crushing a car because they cut him off in the middle of traffic like that. So that space is not necessary for you. It's mainly for us to be safe from you. So, something to consider. I know this is a bunch of me rambling about truck driving. Because I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to cover today. I just felt like talking about maybe just how to become a truck driver. I guess I could cover hours of operation really quick before I call it, because this I don't see this being a super long video. But yeah, let's do hours of operation. Actually, I actually don't need that. Hours of operation. It's usually easy to show hours of operation if I have a visual. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. Come on. Where's the template? Here you go. That might be, this might be the easiest one to use. So, as far as truck drivers go, legally, we're allowed to work 70 hours a week, specifically. 60, 70 hour weekly limit. So what that means is, working wise, we're allowed to actually work, whether it be doing paperwork, whether it be checking in with shippers or receivers, whether it be delivering, whether it be anything that involves being a truck driver. Pre-trip, you have to be in hours of service, so that requires, in those 70 hours, that's what we're allowed to do. That includes driving as well. Driving specifically, we're only legally allowed to drive 60 hours a week. Which sounds like a lot of miles, or sounds like a lot of time for some people. I don't think of it as much. It seemed like a lot of time initially when I first became a truck driver, but after doing this for 7-8 years, not that bad. Now, 11-hour driving limit and 14-hour day limit, duty limit. Okay, so these are some really important things to address. So 14-hour duty limit. So that means on duty. That's when we're actively working. So that's like, your clocking time. So let's say I start at 6 a.m. I can actively be on duty on the clock from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. before I need to go to need to be an off duty or sleeper berth. I'll explain sleeper berth in a minute. So that means I could be doing a bunch of paperwork, I could be doing training, I could be doing anything that makes it that way. I can quote unquote be in my pay period. Driving hours, 11-hour driving limit. So that means in the 14 hours that I'm allowed to be on duty and actively being working as a truck driver, out of those 14, I can only drive 11 of them. So that means 3 hours of them are dedicated to like the duty, being on duty, which involves paperwork, pre-trip, post-trip, and anything that falls in between. If I need to get my truck fixed, I can also be on duty. You can be off duty for that too, but some companies, they require you to be on duty for like 15 minutes before you do that. But yeah, this 14 hours and this 11 hours get pulled out of the 70 hours. So it's not like you these double up to where it's like 25 hours get pulled out of the 70. No. Only 14 hours can be fully pulled out of your clock. I'm not going to pull in the 16-hour clause. That's for deep driving. But you can only actively drive 11 hours, and out of the 11, you can only drive 14 of them. So let's try to put this in perspective. So using the same metric, start at 6 a.m. Okay. Let's say I drive for 4 hours at 6 a.m. to make a delivery, and that's 10 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, that means, or no, not that means, if I'm making my delivery at 10 and they don't get done with me till 12, that means on my on-duty time, I just lost 2 extra hours for my on-duty time. So I only have 1 hour to spare before I'm out of on-duty time before my driving. All right. So if that's the case, I want to get the majority of my driving time in. So I want to try and start driving, let's say it's 12, and I drive for 5 hours. So it's 5 p.m. now. And I told you that I can drive all the way up until I can work all the way to 8 p.m. Now this is important. I break down. Tire blew or something like that. I'm on the side of the road now. And the tire repair company won't be able to get to me for at least an hour and a half. Or at least an hour. Let's say an hour. So now it's 6 o'clock. Okay? So if I still have 2 hours, that means logically I should be able to drive my last 2 hours of my 11 before I run out of time. Well, he gets there, it takes over half an hour, maybe 45 minutes to get me done. Now I have an hour and 15 minutes before my 14 is, before I have to be on off duty. That means I'm driving now 45 minutes less time because now I'm running on my 14, not my 11. We generally like to run on 11. That means we can get as far as we can at the full maximum time. But if we're running on our 14, that means no matter what, if I run out of time on my 14, I have to shut down no matter what, period. Or else I get in trouble for not planning accordingly. Which life happens, whether it be a company taking time too long to unload you, or you have a breakdown. It doesn't matter. These are things that every trucker has to consider when they wake up in the morning and they have to start driving. If I have a breakdown, I need to have backup plans upon backup plans behind. Like, you have to have like 50 backup plans just in case. And in the middle of this too, you have to incorporate this. 30 minutes of every 8-hour work time period, you have to take a break. I don't understand why they implemented this, because it's just affecting our 14-hour workday. Because it eats into our 14 hours. Even if we're not actively on duty, it's not like it pushes it back to like using the same layout that I put before, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. It doesn't change that to where it's 6 p.m. to 8:30, or no, 6 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. That doesn't change it. No. It's 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. period. Even if you take a 30-minute break. The only exception is if you split your clocks, but that's something else I'll get into another time. But yeah, so it'll eat up into your time too. So let's reset that. Okay, let's reset this example that I used before. So you start your day at 6 a.m. Okay, and you start driving for 5 hours. Okay, and you make a quick drop and hook, which that usually takes about 10-20 minutes maybe, and you drive off. So you've already driven 5 hours, your drop and hook took 20 minutes. That means you have about 2 hours left. Now your next pickup is like 120 miles away, a little over 2 hours. So you drive for about an hour and a half and you stop. So that's about 6 hours, 6.5 hours, almost 7 hours now. You're getting close to your time, to your pickup. We got to stop to take your 30. So you have to stop for that extra half an hour. And now you have like your day has gone by like 8 hours and 15 minutes. You don't get any of that time back from that half an hour break. It resets and gives you the remainder of your 11 to drive and continue working for the rest of the day before you have to take your break. Now, we have to keep track of our hours, and there's like it's gotten a little easier with ELDs, which are electronic log devices. I hate saying the full name, but it makes it easier for us to track our 70. But at the same time, because of the breaks and everything and all that, it still eats it up. Like the 14 hours don't affect our 70 if we're on off duty or sleeper berth, but the 11 does affect it. And if you're on duty on your 14, that affects your 70 hours. So when your 70 is up, you have to take a 34-hour break. It's federally required to take a 34-hour break. I don't know why they chose 34. I don't understand why didn't they just do 36 or something like that. But that's what they mandated in order to make sure companies didn't overwork truck drivers. Which in some companies there are some people who are overworked, and then in other cases there are people who aren't working enough. It's just the way the freight is spread out is all funky. I can't explain it very well because I don't know which companies have the most freight versus who has the most drivers. The proportions are all weird. To just say the least, though, we don't have a trucker driver shortage. We just have a managing shortage, or we have a improper management of this. So sleeper berth provision. Holy cow! I need to stop after this. That is because that's for like off-duty time, but that's specifically when you are living inside your truck while you're working. And so this is for the long haul truck driver. So you're not necessarily on off duty. Off duty is for when you're sleeping outside of the truck. Sleeper berth is for when you're sleeping in the truck while you're driving it, quote unquote. So that's what that means for a sleeper berth. So I hope I made any sense. I hope I was logical with any of this, with any of the explanations. I feel like I was tongue-tied in half of it. So hopefully that made sense. And if this is something you guys are into or interested in, let me know. Like it or comment, I don't know. I might do this a Trucking Thursday where I'll get into different particulars of trucking, but there's only so far I can go into that without going into like the videos and stuff you see online, which I need better internet to do that. But I figured I'd give you at least the basics on how to get your CDL and the understanding of different parts that we have to do as truck drivers and have to deal with as far as like hours of service. Anyways, thanks for joining me. Later.